was like sometime in the last summer or spring. My level of understanding, just I now know a lot more than I didn't know back then. And looking at the way I referred to people, it's I guess the best way of looking at this is right, as a marketing, but a tech-based marketing systems guy that breaks things down, you know, I guess, and it doesn't make it right, but it's kind of like I've built this great race car and I'm bragging to my friends about this, right? And I have stopped viewing ultimately my race car, I'm playing in the world of human emotions. I have basically let my, like looking at that, I'm looking at this, I'm like, geez, I have let my ego get the better of me because I'm showing off my brand new race car. And the problem here is I'm not talking about, you know, code or technology or anything. I'm actually talking about real people. And, ultimately looking back on that, I mean, geez, I'd even forgotten about those videos because it's been quite some time. You know, Knowing what I know now, I feel awful. I really do. Like, I'm sorry. I really am. I know also, I can come across as abrasive. So, it is what it is. But I just wanted to start with an apology because I'm really sorry because I now know what I didn't know, you know, 6 months ago or whenever, how long ago those videos were shot. Because how did I learn this, right? I stayed at your parents' house. I went to the ABNC. You know what I mean? Like I did all these things and it was actually, yeah, I mean, there's just like a level of awareness that I have that I just didn't have before.
Mm. Well, I'll tell you what. I think that I will say this. Yeah, you created a world of shit. The videos, and I had a lot of mixed emotions. Part of it was, where did this shit come from? Why was I used as a case study? I didn't agree to that, right? Why is someone working that hard to paint a certain picture? Because the thing was, it's one thing if you see, the thing is, I say enough dumb shit to get myself into a lot of heat. I think that what it can be really frustrating is when something that somebody else said, it comes back on you and people want to connect that to you, right? Because I've always had these people that if I go and I shake hands with a terrorist, they want to say Dr. Boyce Watkins supports terrorism. And I'm like, I didn't even know the guy. I shook his hand. And so I think that, in terms of the apology, I appreciate you making it. And what I really want to do is take this conversation, and I don't want this to be just sort of a let's just all forgive and forget tour. I don't do that sort of we shall overcome stuff. I don't want it to be sort of an apology tour. I don't want it to be a let's throw tomatoes tour. I want it to be a conversation where we say, okay, let's just get the information out there, and then everybody can kind of decide how they feel about what they hear, et cetera. So what I want to do, first of all, is before we move forward, is I want to welcome everybody. And I'm glad you guys came out to hear what's being said here. Because I said, we're not going to just run away from stuff. Last night, I talked about this for 2 hours, and I broke down marketing strategy and helped you guys explain that we are 100% Black owned. Don't let anybody tell you different. Don't let anybody tell you that, oh, this company is run by somebody else. No, I founded this with paychecks from my job. And now we are employing dozens of people. The people that we pay, we have a long list of people every month that feed their children because of what we built to the Black Business School. And so out of all the people we work with, the dozens and dozens of people we work with, 30, 40 people, Charles Wu's one of them, right? And so what I want to kind of ask you, man, is let's just go into this, and then I'm going to take some questions from the audience because I want everybody to ask whatever questions they want to ask.
Hey, Boyce, I'm sorry. It looks like your live stream may not be working.
It's not? Okay, I'm looking at it right now. I see it on the screen. Let us know if you're on Facebook, if you can hear us and see us. Let us know if you can hear us and see us. I see Ron Adams and Marlon Watson. I'll read some of the comments while we're doing this. And then what I'll do is I'll take the recording and I'll put it up on Facebook in case it doesn't go through. ER Pippin says, Watson, it's your fault, or you're a fraud, but you can't even spell my fucking name, so I ain't got no respect for your dumbass. Let's see. Ron Adams says, what's up, Dr. Boyce? Still with you. Thank you. We appreciate that. Emily says, see, we can. Yes, we can. Okay. Harry says, I can see and hear. James says, everything's fine. So Lawrence, I think the live stream's fine. Refresh your page so you can see it. All right. So anyway, let's dig deeper into this. Let's talk about this. So let me ask you this, Charles. So what was going on with the videos? First of all, what was the nature of these conversations? Like, what was kind of happening? That way people can just kind of see the background. You know, because I want people to go see the video so they can see that side. Then they can hear what we have to say. Then they can decide what they want. I've never told Black people what to think. I've always told them, think for yourself. A lot of people don't want you to do that. They want you to believe their side of the story. I don't do that shit. I will tell you my side. I want to be heard out. But at the end of the day, I want you to compile all the information, make the best decision for you and your family. So, Charles, what was up with these videos? What was it all about anyway?
So, there are a variety of videos that are put together. Even every video appears to be a conglomeration of multiple videos, but I can give you a general term of what was going on at the time. So it's not just one video. So what was going on at the time, and this was, I recall, it was sometime in the summertime, there was a fellow by the name of Russell Brunson. Russell Brunson owns a company called ClickFunnels. And he's considered in the industry, you know, one of the best marketers out there. There was a recent Forbes article. And I think actually, yeah, you went to his place in Boise, right? So you got a chance to meet him. But,
Yep.
you know, he's got a software package that he is the fastest growing non-VC funded, you know, marketing software platform right now. And he's done really well for himself, right? Because most companies like an Infusionsoft or whatnot, they'll raise $100 million. And Russell's done it, you know, literally out of his own back pocket, you know, from, you know, humble beginnings in Boise. So what Russell does is he has a class that he teaches. And that class that he teaches, you know, he's actually written a book called Expert Secrets. And it talks about how he breaks everything down into various stages. So like he's got a process where literally, you know, he studied all these sorts of things. Now what he does is, you know, in my case, you know, I've been in this space for quite some time and, you know, I consider myself, you know, reasonably good, but I also know that I'm not an expert. And what I'm always doing is I'm always investing in learning from the best, right? So Russell Brunson's one of the best. I learned from, you know, like the list goes on and on. You know, I learned from the guys over at Agora. I learned from this guy called Todd Brown. You know, I probably spend personally $30,000 to $50,000 a year in education on myself, just kind of keeping myself sharp. That's just me personally. So as part of that process, you know, there was, I guess, a peer review process where we would have to take, you know, maybe campaigns or examples that we were working on and talk with other people in the language of how the Russell Brunson book is written so that we would fully internalize and understand. And, you know, I don't know what your personal beliefs are, but I'm a believer that when I try to learn something myself, I actually prefer teaching somebody at the same time because that forces me to be able to internalize it and, you know, educate someone on those sorts of things. So for anyone's out there, this book's called Expert Secrets. And, you know, I've got no affiliation with him, but that is a marketing book. So if you buy it, they will try to sell you other stuff. But, you know, it's actually a really good book to read. I can also give you 5 others. But there's terminology in that book that I referred to. So specifically, I think there was an attack on you because I referred to you as a character. And it's not that is the terminology, like in Expert Secrets. And like basically as we were learning the lesson material and explaining it, there's this concept called the attractive character. And that's, you know, it's whether you call it the influencer, whether you call it the brand person, whatever you want to call it, that's just the terminology that was being used. So many of those points that I said was all terminology that we were using to communicate with each other because we were talking within a framework. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes good sense. And the thing is, what's interesting about that is, I know a lot about Russell Brunson. I shared the screen, and it shows how he built a $360 million company. And my thinking, again, as a finance professor, is that when I see something like that, my thought is, how did they do it? I'm a student of Dr. Claude Anderson. Dr. Anderson called me today. He's joining the faculty of the Black Business School. And one of the things he says in Powernomics is that Black people we have to get over this, this idea of whether or not somebody likes us or not, and focus on learning from the best. And so if people ever want to wonder why we brought you in, it's because you have a reputation for being really good at what you do, being very serious about what you do. And the Russell Brunsons of the world. I went out to Boise, Idaho, the whitest place I've ever been. And I sat in this room full of 28, 29-year-old millionaires. And when I'm in that space, I really could give half a tiny fuck if somebody likes me or doesn't like me, what they call me. It doesn't. I assume maybe some of them are nice to me, maybe some of them aren't. I'm not there for that. I get love from my family. I get love from my community. I'm there, and I bring this up because a lot of people are caught up in, does Charles Wu like us or not? How does he feel about the struggle for Black people? And I think we should definitely talk about that in terms of what you've learned. But when I came to work with you, I really didn't get there to figure out if someone likes me, nor did I get there to show how much I like them. I just said, I want to learn the best techniques from the best people who know the best ideas, no matter what their background is. I think you can learn from Adolf Hitler you don't have to endorse his policy, but you can learn, like, how did this guy get all this power? How did he accumulate this massive army? How did he invent all this advanced weaponry? Like, that doesn't mean that you're saying, I think Hitler's a nice guy. And what happens a lot in our community is that people get into this idea that if I don't like you, I don't fuck with you, I'm not going to talk to you, I don't want to hear anything from you. And I just never thought that way. I have people I do business with every day where I know deep down they really don't like me, and they definitely don't care anything about what I do in terms of Black empowerment. I'm talking about Black people now, but I do business with them because I know that they have something that can help what we're trying to do. We have something that can help them. We do a trade, everything works out. And I kind of want people to kind of at least consider that idea as they sort of process this. What I noticed is that in the digital underground, where you worked with those students and they see you every day and you're in there tirelessly, like, you're hours and hours, maybe 20 hours a week or so, you're doing all these videos to teach them about cryptocurrency and which coins to invest in. And they made thousands of dollars. All of them made so much money. We asked them, we said, how do you feel? Do you guys want to keep working with Charles or not? Like, how do you feel about it? And unanimously, overwhelmingly, they were like, we don't give a shit. We don't care what your personal views are. This guy's helping us make money. And we want to work with him. We want to keep learning from him. So what's that experience been like in terms of the digital underground and sort of what the backlash was versus, the non-backlash? Like, what's that sort of been for you, and what's your point of view on some of that?
Well, let me hold that thought for a second because I have a response. I want to answer the question of, like, working from the best, and I want to actually bring up your Adolf Hitler analogy. Is that okay?
Sure.
So, I can't speak for everyone, but, I myself, there is tactics and then there are ethics. Those are two separate things. Now, ethically, I have my personal ethical beliefs, and I personally believe I'm a very ethical person. So there are lots of things that other people do that I would never do in my life. I never would. And anyone who knows me, I would hope, would think I'm actually a really nice person. Some people think I'm too nice, but it's not about me. But I want to talk about tactics. When I'm learning tactics, I keep an open mind and I look at who has been effective. And actually, it's interesting that you bring up, this was years ago, I went and I studied everybody who was effective at gaining influence, whether they were positive or negative, right? To build trends. So Adolf Hitler was someone I studied. Jesus Christ was someone I studied. Now, I'm Catholic, So, Jesus Christ is a good person, right? Adolf Hitler is a bad person. Oh, Adolf Hitler's bad is like an understatement. He's an awful person. Do you see what I mean? I studied, how did the Book of Mormon come about? How did the Mormons come across, right? I studied Steve Jobs. How does Steve Jobs do it? I looked at all these things. And what gets discussed there and whatnot is if you look at all this data that everyone does, you'll notice there are trends, and I don't want to say timeless principles because, it is what it is, but there are trends and things that people do. Some of it might be instinctual, some of it might be planned, some of it might be learned. I personally don't know because, I wasn't involved with, Adolf Hitler, nor was I involved with, Jesus Christ, on that. But like, there are these trends that they all do. And the type of person I am, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. If I know that this is the formula that every person with influence has done over the last 20 years, and when I say influence, like I'm saying like, okay, how did Jesus come about, right? How did Adolf Hitler come about? How did Stalin come about? How did Mao come? Okay, so those are the negative ones. But what are the positive ones? How did Martin Luther King come about? How did Gandhi come out? Like all these different things, that to me is useful information. And that's what I'm trying to extract, right? I'm extracting the tactics that will make me effective. And ultimately, I'm talking tactics. Now we talk ethics, right? And I want to bring this up. What happens, so you can look at these tactics that I talked about, and the reality is there is some level of, not even some, they are manipulative. I mean, right? Because of what I've learned, I know that if I push these 4 buttons or these 6 buttons, these things will happen. This ultimately is why, our tool that we have, it's all based on sentiment analysis. It's been created because, over the years, I've learned to systemize and literally break down all the emotional triggers, of what gets people moving one way or another, right? So I can kind of build it into, I don't know, like an algorithm or whatever on that side. Now, when you step back, you can even look at it from a presidential campaign perspective. And one of the things I want to talk about is this concept, right, of selling hopes and dreams. The hope and the dream, it is a tactic. But the thing is, if you like factor in all presidential elections and you look at their campaign slogans, the ones that win are the ones that employ that tactic. So one of the things, so personally, and my political views are what they are, but I actually am not a fan of the current administration. I believe, he's done a few things that just don't make any sense. But if you actually look at it, from a tactics perspective, how did Trump, who was a complete underdog, unseat Hillary, who was the favorite? Just look at the campaigns. Hillary's campaign slogan was, "I'm with her." There's no hope in it. That's just like, stand with me, I'm the establishment. Trump's tactic was, or Trump's campaign was, "Make America great again." And the thing is, those sorts of things are important because hope is what motivates people to make a change. So Trump didn't win because a majority of people agreed with Trump. Trump won because there was an energized base of people who all went out and voted. So, right, if you look at right, when we vote, 60% of I don't even know what the numbers is, like 50 or 60% of the population only votes. 50 or 60% of the population votes. So even though maybe only 30% or 40% of the population agreed with Trump, 90% of that 40% went out and voted, while everyone who was with her was just like, yeah, I'll get there, but, the dog got busy or my kids are screaming and, Hillary's going to win anyways, no big deal. So ultimately, this becomes a separate discussion. But for people who are saying, okay, these are underhanded tactics or whatever on that side, I would say, are you happy with how certain things turned out? And if someone else is using, if someone else is using these techniques and stuff like that to be successful, and they're a message you don't agree with, I believe you have a moral obligation to use the best techniques. You know what I mean? Like, I believe you have a moral obligation to do that. And the thing is, and this goes back to me, I'm in a spot where I can pick and choose who I work with. So like, I can go work for people that want to, do all sorts of things. And I like working with you, Boyce, because you actually, I believe, are doing something positive and are adding value. Do you see what I mean? And I'm not saying like I'm this great person or whatever that, I mean, but this is how I view you, when we started talking and, we'd been talking, you mentioned, we've been talking for like 2 years, I've got people every day that are, hey, I've got this thing or whatever. I looked at what you were doing. I've watched what you've been doing for over a year. And I was like, okay, this Boyce guy, or sorry, the Dr. Boyce, I don't mean to be disrespectful.
That's okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's kind of funny because you got these people that are like, he views you as a character, and then you're like, this Boyce guy, but I don't take it personally at all.
No, but Dr. Boyce, but what you're doing, here's the thing. So now let's also get into the vision or whatever on that side, right? You haven't been in on this, but your brother Lawrence and I talk a lot. And specifically speaking, when I had that conversation with your dad loves history. So, we start talking about all this sort of stuff. And when I look at the demographic side of things, the current situation to me of how the African community, the African American community, like, is where it's at, like, doesn't make sense to me. So it's like, now it becomes more interesting because it's like, this is a problem that has to be solved. Boyce, I view you as someone that actually has a good solution to solve the problem in terms of overcoming, racism, poverty, all these things. And I'm not saying this because, I'm not this like special person or anything, but like, this is a problem that needs to be solved. You've got a solution that I believe can solve it. And that gets me excited. And that's why I like deploying these tactics or whatever you want to call it to be successful, because it's not like we are helping people win. Do you see it? Or that's how I see it, right? I look at it as, someone who maybe was working, somewhere, and they want to go start their own business and everything like that. And I've seen over the time, right, they get involved with, the various programs, that I've employed my tactics for or whatever, but then they're successful. And it becomes successful, and then you see like the growth in them, and you see how they're making more money, they're more financially stable, their esteem goes up, like all these positive things. Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, sorry, I don't mean to.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You said, look, I should jump in that way I don't forget what I want to throw in there. Because again, I'm speaking with Charles Wu today mainly so that we can have that open conversation and you guys can ask questions and kind of make your own decision. I'm not here to tell you what to think. This is not spin. This is not propaganda. Now you're going to get a lot of propaganda on the other side because there are people that clearly want to paint a certain picture or convince you to think a certain way. But I just want what's best for you. And I want you to walk away with whatever conclusion works best for you and your family, not the one that agrees with me. One of the things you mentioned, you talked about hope. And I showed a screenshot of Barack Obama using hope, and one of the things they brought up in the videos that they made to try to, I guess, spread their message of hopelessness, I guess, is that like, oh, he's selling hope, he's just selling hope to Black people. Well, here's what's interesting about that. You have a lot of people in the community that are pushing hope, and hope is not a bad thing, but false hope is what makes it sinister. Right? You have a lot of false hope. Like, for example, a lot of people voted for Barack Obama because they were hoping that Black America would improve during his presidency. And then when it came time to deliver on the promise, the deliveries were not made. A lot of people gave money to a school that I'm not going to talk about today, but under the hope that this school would be built and it to be a beautiful school, and the school has not been built to this day. Maybe one day it will be, but it hasn't been built yet. We bring hope because hope does motivate people to action, as you said. If you have no hope, then you're not gonna try to do anything. The reason I went to school so long was because I had hope that one day I was going to be successful. If I was hopeless, I would give up. That's why so many young Black men and women are committing suicide slowly, because they've lost hope. So giving people hope is fine. The key idea is that you must deliver on what you promised. We give people hope that if you learn how to start a business, it'll improve your economic condition. Well, everybody in here who's watching this video right now who's done anything with the Black Business School, any of our 57,000 students who benefited, say something right now in the chat right now and let us know. how that interaction has improved your life. Tell people. I want people to know. I want the truth out there. I don't need nothing but the truth. You ain't got to lie for me. Just tell the truth. Everybody in here who's learned how to invest from us, who bought your first share of stock, or got your child to buy their first shares of a company because you were in the Black Business School. Say something about how this has really improved your hope for the future. These are real tactics that say, look, I want you to keep hope alive, absolutely, but we're going to bring real tangible solutions to you so that when you engage in these things that we ask you to do, you're going to be so excited about your future because you're going to see real change. We deliver real change. And in fact, just with the Black Business School, if we don't give you the change you're looking for, then we don't want your money. We give you your money back. I don't know of Umar Johnson giving anybody their money back on their school. I don't know of Barack Obama giving anybody a refund on their vote. I don't know about any of these universities giving anybody a refund if they're not happy with that $200,000 college degree. We will give you your money back. So the idea, this sticking with that idea of hope. Remember, hope is a good thing. We just think hope is a bad thing. No, wait. We think. I'm not telling you this. I'm telling everyone who's listening. Hope is a good thing as long as it's not false hope. If I get my child excited because guess what? After dad's done with work, we'll probably be able to go to Disneyland this summer. And she gets her hopes up. She's excited about going to Disneyland. Well, yeah, if I don't take her, then I'm a son of a bitch. But if I show up like the superhero she needs me to be and we go to Disneyland, then that hope was a good thing. It made my daughter happy and I delivered on my promises. And that's pretty much what a lot of this boils down to. I'll go ahead, Charles.
Dr. Boyce, I'm going to agree with you, but I'm going to actually add more to it. I believe hope is the most important thing. I'm not sure if you're familiar with a person called Napoleon Hill. Yes. Napoleon Hill wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. And the fundamental and what Think and Grow Rich is about was back, I think he lived like 100 years ago. So this was back in the time when, the big, Steve Jobs wasn't born. There was no Bill Gates. It was Andrew Carnegie, Rockefeller, those titans. And he basically spent years shadowing, the most successful at the time. They were probably maybe even billionaires, but $1 billion in 1900 is worth like $1 trillion or something crazy today, right? He shadowed them. And the fundamental principle of Think and Grow Rich is it's all on hope. If you believe you can do something, you can actually achieve it. So ultimately, I agree with what you're saying, but I'm actually going to argue and state, Dr. Boyce, that without hope, there's nothing. And I can give you countless examples, but look at people, right? There are, so many situations where you've got like an athlete who's got everything going for him and he's got all the physical capabilities. And you've got someone else who might have half of the physical capabilities, but that guy has the mental game to just push through stuff. Do you see what I mean? There's countless examples of people who, one of the things I do Ironman. That's a endurance exercise thing, right? And literally it's supposed to be a hobby, but it's pure punishment. You swim for 2.5 miles, you bike for 112 miles, and you run a marathon at the end, and you pay money to do this, right? That's crazy. But you literally have people that are paraplegic doing this. You have people with one leg running a marathon. You know what I mean? You have people with no arms trying to swim their way, for 2 miles. It's like, if you believe you can do something, and ultimately you got to make sure, you're right about the false hope, but if you believe you can do something, nothing can stop you. And that's actually, if you start looking at all this stuff, if you look at all these trends, you look at everything from, let's use the example, this is an easy one for me to use, is the Chinese Civil War. You had Mao and you had this guy called Chiang Kai-shek. Chiang Kai-shek had the backing of the Chinese. He had like the US military. He had guys with guns, he had tanks, and he had everything. Mao had actually lost the battle, like any major battle, he got lost. They have this thing called like it's equivalent. It's like, I can't say it doesn't translate properly in English, but they had this like awful march where they had to run from both the Japanese and the Chinese, and like half the rebellion died, right? And so these are guys with like pitchforks and rifles, but they overthrew, the nationalist Chinese government. And why? It was all built on hope. If you look at like, what Adolf Hitler did, and that's a negative one, but look at the American Revolution. You look at all these sorts of like major accomplishments. The key thing you need is you need to have hope. If people don't believe, there's even probably, there's a proverb, I think I recall, like, without hope, that's the most fundamental and most important thing. And sorry, I don't mean to go off on this, but that's the most valuable thing you can give someone. If you tell someone, and I'm sure you've seen this in your life, when somebody believes they can accomplish something, it's amazing what can happen.
That's what, I do agree with you on that. I mean, I think that, when you talk about the struggles, like when we were talking to you about, joining the marketing team and kind of, working with us on some of the challenges we had, one of the challenges that we had is that there are so many people who have convinced Black people that building wealth is hopeless, that being poor is just kind of where you are, that you can't change that. And again, my PhD is in finance. I know the simple mathematics. All you have to do is pile up your money, and then you're not poor anymore, right? And if you were to add up all the money you spend on fast food, hair weaves, sneakers, or given to your pastor, or whatever it is, not to disrespect those things, but if you were to pile up all that money, you would understand like how much wealth you actually have. And it's hope that ultimately does become a defining factor, because hopelessness leads you to think that where I am right now is where I'm gonna be. And I think that when you were talking earlier, you were saying that, from your perspective, it was hard for you to understand why the African American community has struggled relative to immigrant communities, let's say. A lot of that is, that I would encourage you to keep reading the history of it. Read Dr. Claude Anderson's books, maybe Black Labor, White Wealth. I think that will be a good one, because it'll sort of show you how Black hopelessness and Black non-competitiveness was drilled into our mindset, as well as Black self-destruction, crabs in a barrel, anything good in Black that grows, you destroy it. Like they literally had government programs like meritorious manumission that would reward Black people for stopping other Black people from rebelling or standing up for themselves, right? So ultimately, you have this ingrained system that creates this kind of chaos where we were trained for hundreds of years to hate ourselves and to really hate each other. And it's really hard to overcome that. It's very difficult. Like you're seeing some of it right now. Maybe even see it some of it from me. I mean, I'm a brainwashed Black kid from Kentucky. Maybe I have a lot of growing to do. But you can really see when you see people that, for example, when you see people that say, I don't like what Boyce is doing. I don't think Boyce should be doing whatever he's doing. They can't really point to like the work. Clearly, the work is not. You can't criticize the work, right? You can't criticize the fact that we have so many satisfied customers. We can't criticize the fact that that the Black Business School offers so much quality for low cost, and it changes people's lives. So instead, people will sort of make it about a personality, like oh, I just don't like that guy, so I don't mess with him, or I'm not going to do business with him because he got on my nerves, right? And what people don't understand is that when you behave that way, you're missing opportunities to form coalitions. You're missing opportunities to learn. My philosophy is I will learn from anybody, especially if I'm learning from my enemy, because maybe when I learn from my enemy, I can defeat my enemy better by learning my enemy's tactics and getting better than my enemy at whatever it is we're competing at, right? Or like LeBron James should learn from watching the Golden State Warriors. I'm sure he watches a lot of their tape, or even doing in business, like this idea that I won't do business with you because I don't like you. Like I'm looking at some of the comments, and I see people, some people are asking legitimate questions, making legitimate comments, and there's some people who are just saying Charles Wu's a racist. Now, what's interesting to me is my thought is, okay, if you say that, and it's okay to say whatever you want to say, but if you say that, number one, like provide something, like put a quote in there, put something in there that supports your point, as opposed to just emotion. You can't operate just on raw emotion, because no one's going to respect your opinion. But then two, okay, let's assume that he was which he's not. I know the dude. He's not in that category. But let's say that you're talking about somebody who's clearly a Donald Trump. There you go. Donald Trump's a great example. let's say that if I said to you, I'm going to go, Donald Trump has offered $1 billion for the Black community. And all I have to do is sit down with him and sign a document, and we'll get a check, and we can start building businesses. There are a lot of Black people who would say, don't even sit down and take that check. Don't even talk to him. And my thought is that doesn't make sense, because Malcolm X sat down with members of the Ku Klux Klan. Martin Luther King could sit down with people that hated his guts, as long as whatever they were doing was going to benefit the Black community. Now, going to work for Donald Trump is another thing, but going to sit down and saying, okay, let's figure this out. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that literally white nationalists, white supremacists sat down at a meeting at the Nation of Islam. And they, and they say, well, look, we don't like you, you don't like us, but let's figure out what the common interest is here in all of this, right? So I'm not trying to use you in that category, because I know you're not in that category, but at the same time, I think that I was a little bit concerned about this whole over emotionality kind of thing. And I don't really know if that's going to get us anywhere, because at the end of the day, the question is, do you want to build wealth or not? And if the answer is yes, then let's do that. Let's focus on that. Go ahead, Charles. I said a lot. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I did. I think I have 3 things, and a few things ran out of my mind. First, let's talk about this hope and this concept and things like that. Think, like, if you remember, what was it, a couple months ago, I think the biggest webinar you'd ever had, I think, 3,000 or 4,000 people register for it. And I came to you and I said, Boyce, we're going to get 20,000 people registered for this webinar. And you looked at me like, dude, you're crazy. Or Dr. Boyce, you looked at me and said, you're insane. What are you talking about? We've never registered this much. If we look at industry averages, we'd have to spend this much advertising. I said, let's agree we're going to register 20,000 people for this webinar. And now we don't know how we're going to do it, but we believe we're going to go do it. Let's get the team together. We're going to put the goal out there, and now we're going to figure out how to do it. And the honest truth is, Dr. Boyce, I didn't have an answer either, but look at if you look, and people outside don't know, but like the way the team came together, the way people contributed, the way that ideas flowed and everything like that, we not even hit that goal, we exceeded that goal. Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That is the most important thing. That's another example. That is the most important thing, on that side. So that's that. Now, the second thing I want to comment on in terms of, the Donald Trump thing and everything like that, honestly, I believe I'm a pretty open-minded person, and I honestly do. And if I come across as, I also know that I have a tendency to use poor wording. And I know I've apologized in advance before, and I'm going to apologize in advance for anything else I say, because I know I am just insensitive. It is what it is. You can talk to my girlfriend and she beats me on the head every day in terms of things I shouldn't be saying and stuff like that. That's that. But that being said, even if I was this awful person or whatever on that side, I would look at this more. It's not like you're taking money from Donald Trump, but if you were at war, like let's say we're at war and we're at war with Russia, and if Russia has come up with like some new radar technology, we would be silly not to try to learn it and get it and use it for ourselves.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's my opinion. And the reality is, and maybe this is, unethical and everything on that side, but this is what happens. If you look at what happened with Nazi Germany, everybody in Nazi Germany went to the, in the Nuremberg trials, they went to the trial with the exception of all the scientists, because what happened was everyone else was like, well, crap, they obviously can't do what they're doing, because how they developed that information, they basically conducted live human experiments on a population and wiped out 6 million people, which was completely unethical. But the information that was gained was incredibly valuable, and that created so many advances in so many different ways. So now this becomes an ethics discussion, and that's a little bit out of my realm, and really, but that's not me. But for me, it's information. So ultimately, I personally would never, I honestly, I would never do anything like that, and I would never condone that. But if someone else has done that and that's there, I probably would, I would use that information because it would hopefully help me either save lives or make other people's things better and everything on that. That's my personal
Well,
viewpoint on it.
I mean, what you're saying is exactly. If people go read Powernomics in Dr. Claude Anderson's book, that's what he says. He says, get information, learn from everybody who is successful. One thing I can say is that, I know your background and you're known as one of the best in terms of marketing and stuff like that. And you've helped build multi-million-dollar companies. And now are you necessarily always invested in what those companies do with the money? Not that I know of, but I know that in my mind, I was thinking if we figure out how to build a multi-million-dollar business, we can employ, hundreds, maybe thousands of Black people. We can create massive amounts of economic activity in the Black community. We can create opportunity all across the board. We can educate, hundreds of thousands of Black children for the next generation, and those children will go on and create jobs for the children of those parents who aren't paying attention to what we're doing in this Black economic revolution. So in a way, I almost see your marketing approach as almost like somebody who built, who helped us build a gun that helped us go fight a war. The person who builds the gun isn't always invested in the war, right? But a bigger gun will help you fight white supremacy. And my thinking has always been straight up point blank period that the biggest reason we're enslaved is because we don't have businesses. We're enslaved because we don't have jobs. We're enslaved because we don't have economic strength. And my belief is that if we take that 1.2 trillion that we're spending every year and we corral that into economic growth, into investing, into business development, we can employ our own people. And that goes to our Black core of three: educate our own children, create Black businesses, support Black businesses. Now, Lauren sent over a couple of questions.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Go ahead. I was gonna read them. Did you want to go ahead? You can read them if you want to.
Yeah, so there are just some pressing questions that the community continues to ask. And, I know you're really big on transparency, Boyce, and I just want to ask them, right? So, and also, Charles, some people missed the live stream was going in and out during your apologies. So I want you to repeat that at some point, just so everyone can hear what you said earlier in the conversation. But the first question that a lot of people keep asking is, does Charles Wu respect the Black community?
I mean, I believe I do. I honestly believe I do. I don't know how to answer that. I don't know how to answer that in any other way. I don't have an answer to that. I mean, I believe I do. I think the better question might be, so here's the issue. The fundamental problem that a lot of people have with me is, it's not that I disrespect the Black community. I'm just very blunt with what I say. And that bluntness can be, and it's not because I mean to be, that's just how I talk. And that bluntness, like, I'll be honest, I'm rough around the edges. I don't, I am what I am. I'm 37 at this point. I've gone through all sorts of, sensitivity training, through my life in terms of how to be nicer to this person or that person. I'm happy to, learn more on that front. So, if we want to do something like that, I'm happy to do all that on that front. But I personally respect it. But I recognize that my tone and my mannerisms can come across in a negative fashion. And I all I can do is say I'm sorry for that. That's all I can say.
It's kind of it's interesting because it kind of is a way to describe how I go about contracting with people. Now, people are asking me, did I fire Charles Wu? Am I going to fire Charles Wu? I can't fire Charles Wu. Charles works for himself. So he was a contractor we worked with on a couple projects, but I can't fire him. Like, there's not like a firing process I can do. But the thing about it though is that, when I hire people, I don't need you to rub my ass and call me beautiful. Like, that's not what I'm looking for. I hired my manager, Michelle Martin, because Michelle is mean. Michelle will tell you what needs to be said. She ain't worried about your feelings. And the reason you need a mean, for those of you who are starting a business, you need a mean person in your organization who's going to focus on business, who's going to focus on getting the job done. And because being all touchy-feely all the time can cause you some problems. And I'll just sort of have a moment of honest reflection real quick and say that I reached out to her to be my manager because I said, I've had some people take advantage of me because I was too nice to them. You know, they use this whole like, hey, brother, you know, let's work together, brother. You know, Tony White out in LA, you know, we were making a movie together. He's like, hey, brother. Every time we're talking, I was like, why does he keep saying brother, brother, brother? He's not even into this stuff that I do. But he knew that I was into this, right? So he used that to get me to trust him. And at the end of the day, you know, the area where the trust was misplaced. Let me just say that. So I said, you know, I don't want my weakness of being too nice and too touchy-feely to stop us from going to war. You know, I can be tough in a lot of areas, but I never want to be a mean person. But I said, Michelle, you know what? You have an ability to be really blunt. You don't seem to care what people think. So I need a person like that on my team. So that's why she's my chief of staff. With you, I didn't really have a conversation to try to say, well, look, you know, I know you're not Black. Everybody else that we worked with is pretty much Black. I work around nothing but Black people pretty much all the time. You and Mark Moss were the first two that were in the space. And I didn't ask you this. I didn't say like, okay, I know you're Asian and I need you to really care about Black people as much as I do. Caring about Black people is my job. That's what we do as our team, or that's what our team does, etc. I said, look, you're really good at marketing. You're really good at breaking down, you know, the digital thing. I need to find processes that will allow us to persuade Black people to consider investment and business ownership as a pathway to overcome and defeat racism. And it's not like I was saying, I need you to help me convince Black people to drink more malt liquor. I didn't say I need you to convince Black people to buy more red bottom shoes. I said, I need you to help me persuade people to invest more in their children's education. And that was where the conversation started and ended. And so, you know, I think that it's important as we talk about, you know, what Charles thinks and all this stuff is to kind of sort of back up. I want everybody who really cares, who's really trying to hear me backpedal from that a little bit and think about this and how this sensitivity we have can hold us back in so many situations. You know, we spend our lives worried about whether white people like us, Asian people like us, Jewish people. I don't think Charles has ever really wondered, hey, you know, how does Boyce feel about the Asian community? Have we ever had a conversation, Charles, where I've told you that I care as much about what happens in the Asian community as you do? Have we ever talked about that?
I mean, honestly, it doesn't even cross my mind, honestly.
Right. You don't, from what I understand, if I'm going to guess correctly, you don't give a fuck. You're like, you know, caring about my family is my job. Like, you didn't want to work with me because of how I felt about the Asian community. You wanted to work with me because it was a good partnership. And I think that that's what's really important. A lot of people who are listening, they work for white folks. If their boss was able to listen in on their conversations about white people or spy on their Facebook page, half of them would get fired tomorrow, right? But does that mean that you're not good at doing your job? Does that mean that you shouldn't be working for, you know, IBM because you don't want to see the prosperity of the white community? No, it means that you're engaged in a trade. And at the end of the day, the people that are supposed to love your family are the family members. And Charles, you know, the one thing I'll say again, you know, as much as I'll let anybody beat up, if they want to beat up on Charles, please do that. But I also, in fairness, I should also state something that is also true, that, you know, I was really kind of surprised and impressed actually that you went that far to learn as much as you could about Black culture and the issues and how Black people think, and, you know, churches and barbershops, and but to this day, I don't think we've ever had another Asian person at any of our events. We went to 50 something cities and, you know, saw tens of thousands of people. We never had an Asian person there. And so it's interesting because I've never done that in the Asian community. Like, I'm not a person that's going to be in Chinatown or somewhere to learn. I've been to China, I'd studied Chinese, but I'm not invested in the plight of Chinese people because I'm too invested in my own people, right? So I'm going to stop talking and we can go to the next question.
So this is a very important question. Does Charles Wu own the Black Business School or any part of Boyce Watkins Enterprises?
I mean, as far as I know, I'm a consultant. Unless Boyce, you gave me a Christmas present. I mean,
let me
actually.
Go ahead.
Can I say one thing?
Go ahead.
This is a personal opinion of mine. If I own the Black Business School with what value that you provide, I would triple your prices. I would triple the prices and make it more profitable.
Right.
Yeah. So
you're honestly just giving it away. I mean, and we have these conversations offline. I'm like, Boyce, you're selling too cheap, and you've heard me, or sorry, Dr. Boyce, you're selling too cheap. I mean, you know the market. People pay $25,000 a year or $50,000 a year to go get education that doesn't teach them anything. You're actually adding value, and you charge like $50 a month for this stuff. It's ludicrous how cheap you are. That's just me. I mean, that's me.
And I think that's Charles's way of saying that that we keep our prices low so everybody can afford it. In fact, you can actually get started for free. If you go to theblackbusinessschool.com, you can get started for free. And to summarize for everybody who wasn't able to catch the gist of what we just talked about, think about this. Think about how crazy it would be, how ridiculous, how asinine that'd have to be to run around talking all day about Black ownership and to create this thing called the Black Business School and then secretly have somebody else who owns the Black Business School and they're just paying me to be a spokesperson for the school. That's insanity. And also the other thing is I'm not the only faculty member. We have great people like Dr. Venetia Dutra. We have Dr. Claude Anderson is in there. We have Dr. Tyra Selden. There's all these great people in there. And so it's not even just Lamar Wilson teaching. A lot of people teaching the Black Business School besides me, but at the end of the day, that is a Black business, and so, I think it's important to just make sure that's clear. Now, of course, people are going to make up what they want to make up. As you climb the mountain to the top, if you ever start doing something serious in the world and something that's impactful, just know the haters are going to pile up. And in the Black community, we get a triple dose of haters because we got a lot of miserable, unhappy people who just want to destroy things that seem to be good, almost the way an alcoholic's body rejects health food. But we'll crush all of that. We crush it with the truth. We crush it with power. We crush it with intelligence. We crush it by moving forward. And the same way the Chinese 100 years ago ran all the dope addicts out of their country and got heroin out of their country, we're going to get coonery out of the Black community. So I like having these straight up conversations because I'm like, y'all bring it on because we're ready for you because what we're doing is impactful and it's going to make a difference over the next 200 years. Go ahead, Lawrence.
All right. Yeah. So to put it bluntly, the Black Business School is 100% Black owned. I mean, and should we say who owns it, Boyce, or no?
I mean, if you want, I mean, me and you own it.
Yes, the brother Watkins, the Watkins brother owned the Black Business School. So 100% fully owned the Black Business School.
Great Black speakers, Black owned. Like we're big on Black ownership, man. Let's straight up. Like we'll learn from anybody. My brother went to Cornell, and he'll bring people to the table where he'll say, oh, these guys know this cutting edge technique that they're using over here. We can try this over here. That's how we get ahead of everybody else. If you want to get ahead of everybody else, the keys to winning economic battles are the same as the keys to winning any kind of battle. And it's what I call the 4I philosophy. That is information, innovation, and infinite industrialization. That means that you get as much information as you can from wherever you can, no matter who gives it to you, as long as it's good. You innovate, you learn the latest, best techniques to get the job done. Infinite industrialization means that you mass produce your shit at a level that other people can't even fathom. So we constantly brainstorm with our team on distribution. That's why our stuff is everywhere. That's why we're able to reach as many people as corporate owned media outlets, and we're completely Black owned. We're completely owned by us. That's why we're able to. I've been able to teach hundreds of thousands of people finance, whereas I got professor friends that teach 30 students a year, 50 students a year. We're teaching 50,000, 100,000 people a year. We do that because we innovate like crazy, and we get the ideas wherever we can get them. So that's if you want to know the layout, that's what it is. Those who want to know the truth are going to remember that. Those who don't, who just want to believe something negative about whatever Black people are doing, I can't do much for those people. Go ahead, Lawrence.
Yeah, so Quentin Ham doesn't really like us. So he says a family of Watkins exploiting us, right? So thank you, Quentin, for that wonderful message.
I'm gonna tell you, man. Look. I got a mom to enroll her daughter in our children's program for $149, and my God, I got that nigga good. I'm learning how to invest. I tricked her child into reading books, and now her child knows financial literacy. I got her. I pulled it off, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, but you know what? He's been asking, or a couple people have been asking the same question over and over again. I think this is important, Charles. Does Charles Wu market hope to people other than Black people?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the conservative redneck space, so I think that's actually, our first conversation, right? When we were talking about the, FU gun shirts and things like that, for a period of time, I was heavily involved in the cat meme space. So for anyone out there, the cat meme space, people love wet cats. Blows my mind. For a period of time, I had a lock on the Disney Princess Quiz space. So it's those, what Disney Princess Quiz are you type of a thing. I mean, so we've hit all sorts of various verticals, and yeah, I mean.
Would you? I mean, think about that hope concept, though. I mean, Charles, would you be offended if somebody gave you hope or got you to? I mean, why do you spend? You said you spend $30,000 a year learning how to be the best at what you do, or 20,000 was a high number. Which I recommend to anybody who wants to be good at anything.
It was up, yeah.
Yeah. So you're spending tens of thousands of dollars a year. Does hope not play a part in what convinced you to go spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year to go learn stuff? I mean, hope is a good thing, right?
Well, let's be realistic, right? If you look at, what's the difference between Harvard and, your community college, especially for your basic courses? I have a belief that, or if I look at how the market looks at this, I generally view Harvard as a better product than the community college. Why? Well, getting into Harvard is going to get me a belief that, I'm going to get into the, the secret society. I'm going to get a better job. I'm going to be at the top of the upper echelons of society, right? Versus the community college, on that. That being said, reality-wise, it is much more financially efficient to actually take your first 2 years of schooling at the community college, get your Common Core credits out of the way, and then go to Harvard, year 3 and year 4 to then take advantage of that. But nobody does that. Maybe not nobody. Most people don't do that. They start at Harvard from day one if they can get in. I mean, I don't know if that's a good example, but everything is driven by, that's how I look at things. Everything is driven by hope or some belief of a result. I mean, I think an example I use is I don't buy a drill because I need a drill. I buy a drill because I need a hole in the wall. And then I get the drill to give me that hole in the wall. Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just how I function. And that's how I believe most people function. We want results. And if I don't believe that thing can give me a result, if I don't have hope or belief that whatever it is going to get me to where I want to go, I would never spend money on it.
Yeah, I mean, what would people that, I mean, seriously, I would ask this question of anybody who's a serious critic, not somebody who's just trying to attack, but would you prefer that Black people just be hopeless? Like, is that what they want? Like, like hope is not a bad thing. It's maybe false hope again. That's the bad thing. Somebody asked a question I wanted to ask you. She asked a legitimate question. She said, "What did you mean when you referred to Boyce as the pitch man? When you referred to me as the pitch man, as the pitch guy?" That's what Keisha Harris is asking. So I'm going to ask her a question and let you kind of respond to that.
You're the face of the brand. I mean, technically, you're not the pitch man. You're more the attractive character. When we programmed our webinars lately, I think the first one, maybe Julian functioned a bit as a pitch man because he did the end part. And then the second one, Al has been. I know we had talked about this, but to be honest, you kind of suck at sales. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I don't take offense to that because I do. what people don't know is that for years, back in the days where we were paying, people like Yvette, Carnell and stuff like that, we didn't have any money because I just wanted to help Black people, but I didn't really care much about helping myself. And also I didn't think it was right. So I too have been sort of sucked into this idea that it's just wrong to even ask people to pay you a fair price, even if it's a quality product. And I said, no, if I mention money, like people are going to think that I'm just in it for the money. But then then the reality hits, bills start coming in. You got people that work with you that are underpaid because you don't have any support financially. And then at that point, you only have one choice. Your only choice is either figure out a way to generate some revenue, or you're going to have to go work for some white guy or a corporation in order to pay the bills. And so I said, I'm not, that option two can't work. So we got to figure out how to generate revenue, because the reality of what happens is that, when you're in a business, and this is for anybody that's trying to build wealth or start a business one day, if you're in a business and you're scared to get what you're worth, because I know what I'm worth. Like, I know that a lot of y'all spent $100,000 going to a university and you got a degree that ain't even worth the paper that's printed on. So I know that my PhD is worth a lot. It took 10 years to get it. But if you don't get what you're worth, then the people around you suffer. So it wasn't so bad that I was suffering. Like, I remember literally, this is one of the reasons why I had no problem going head first in terms of talking to anybody, whether you're talking about critic or anybody. I would be like, wait a minute, Yvette Carnell, like, I paid you money when I had no money. Like, I was broke, and I would make sure you got it. You got your money every month. But yet even then, a person you gave them your last dollar, they'll still come back and say, I was underpaid. It wasn't fair. So I tried to move away from that by saying, let's focus on, the fact that, look, all these people that follow us, they're spending money every day anyway. They're spending, hundreds, even thousands of dollars every month on all kinds of stuff that isn't going to give them 1/1000th of the value that we're giving them, that isn't going to help them. Whether you're talking about buying liquor or shoes or movie tickets, we're giving them value. So the negotiation I had with the people that loved us and supported us is, I said, look, I'll make a deal with you. Take all the money that you're spending with white folks every month and just give us maybe 10% of that, 5%, 2% of that. We're going to take that money. We're going to go and we're going to employ some Black people and Black families so they can feed Black children. We're going to build Black institutions. We're going to educate Black people, and we're going to do it better for 5%, 10% than the university did for you for $200,000. That's our brand promise. That's our guarantee in the Black Business School. And then I told them, if you don't agree, if you do this and you don't agree that we've delivered value beyond anything that you've gotten from any university ever, then come see us and we'll give you your money back, within 30 days. And these were business practices where I've gotten criticized. The people that really are into making money and they're thinking about the money, I've been criticized for that. I've had people say, oh, no, that's, you're giving away too much for too little, or you shouldn't have a money back guarantee. But I offer that. I insist on that because I want to make sure that anybody who does business with us is happy that they did it. I don't agree with scam artists. I fight against scam artists in the Black community, take them down every day, and I'll keep doing that. So why would I ever want to be in that category? It looks like you have a screen share, Lawrence. Go ahead and tell what's that on the screen.
Yeah, there's two things I want to talk about here, right? So the first is we've been collecting hard data in regards to our programs in terms of what people like and what they don't like regarding the Black Business School. And this is the most recent survey that we've done for specifically the digital underground. This information is up to date as of today. So we have what's called a Net Promoter Score. And what that is you ask one question: how likely is it that you would recommend this product or service to a friend or colleague, right? And what they do is they take your promoters and then they subtract your detractors from that. And they give you a score that ranges from -100 to 100, right? Anything over 0 is good. Anything over 50 is excellent. We are at a 64, which is teetering on world class, right? So when we ask our customer base, about 3/4 of our customers really love us. 72% gave us a 9 or 10. Some, 20% like us, gave us a 7 or 8. And then we have about 8% of the population who weren't satisfied with the product. If you are a part of the 8%, we, like I said, we will be happy to give you a refund for your particular product. So these are hardcore numbers, right? So when we talk about hope and things like that, this is hardcore data in regards to how people are responding to our products and services. We did another survey like this in the summertime for the entire Black Business School. And I think our number was about a 68 or 69, right? So, when we hear words like fraud and things like that, we have the data to show that it's not the case, right? So for anyone who relies on data to make decisions on that front. But at the same time,
let me interrupt and ask you a question. How does that number, just so we can have a point of comparison, how does that number compare to like world-class companies that you can name?
Yeah, it compares to like an Apple or a Google or a Southwest, companies that are considered to be like the leader in a particular space, right?
Now,
so
let's add one more thing, and I think this is the second thing that's worth noting. This program is only, 2 months old, maybe 3 months old. Most of the time, it takes companies years to achieve that level of, quality, right? Microsoft is the one known most of this. The first version of Windows doesn't work, and it takes them, 4 versions and 8 patches later before Windows actually works, for your computer. And you guys, have done this just out the gate. Like I said, your prices are too low, Boyce. I mean, Dr. Boyce.
we're not going to raise them anytime soon, right? But and then also at the same time, we did this exact same survey in July. Like I said, we've got like a 68 or 69 or something for the entire Black Business School as well. So our programs are doing very, very well. And the Black Business School is only 2.5 years old. So the Black Business School was started, I believe, in May 2015 or something like that. Or May or June 2015. So we're still a new organization, but we've been building this brand for the last 10, 11 years. One thing though, I do want to get back to the point of Charles's. He apologized earlier, but I know a lot of you guys missed that. To put it frankly, Charles, a lot of people were offended. A lot of people were hurt, right? That you were speaking about the Black community, in that type of way, and also speaking to my brother Boyce. Calling him a pitch guy and a character, truly hurt because people have followed us, have put their heart and soul into what it is they were building, this economic revolution that we're building for the Black community. So can you just repeat what you repeated when we started this call? Can you just talk about just address how you offended Boyce and also offended our community in general?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I'm truly and deeply apologetic. I mean, I'm not saying this in any way to give an excuse, but at the time those comments were made, that was a time before I'd gotten to know, you, Lawrence, and your brother, Dr. Boyce, as well as I know now. It also, I didn't understand, right? At the time, this was, call it the beginning of a project or in the midst of it. And for all intents and purposes, it was, I was a person breaking things down, understanding things on a, how do I say this? On a, you can understand things on a, academic's not the right term. I understand it, I understand it on a conceptual level and everything. So, honestly, I feel awful. The second thing about it is, I do take responsibility because having done this, I had built what I felt was a wonderful race car. And I wanted to brag to my friends about how great of a race car I built, right? I mean, it doesn't make it right. And I'm not in any way condoning what happened, but if you can imagine, the concept is, and how, a bunch of marketer guys are sitting here and, we're talking about, how good we are, here I am saying, hey, I have no background in this space. I know absolutely nothing. I have no reason to do anything in this space. And look at me, look what I've done, blah, 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 blah. I'm really proud of this. And look how great I am. And, looking back on that, I'll take full responsibility. I mean, that's what an arrogant prick says. And I am truly sorry about that, because that's not how humans, I'm not dealing with a machine, I'm not dealing with an algorithm and everything like that, even though that's how I look at things. I forgot the fact that I'm dealing with humans and talking about other humans, and it's just wrong. I mean, there's no other way of saying it.
Right. Yeah. So thank you for clearing that up. Someone had a question in regards to he called us children or whatever. I just want to clarify on that particular point. He was actually talking about a children's program that we were launching at the time. For our Black Millionaires Tomorrow program. So things like the Digital Underground or the Freedom Family or anything like that was not in existence at that point in time. We were working on a new children's program. So when you hear him talk about children, he's not talking about the Black community. He was actually talking about actual children. So
the other thing too, though, and this isn't in any way condoning anything, is those videos have been adjusted for maximum effect. And if you actually watch those videos, I can break down the same tactics that I use being used in those videos, to influence opinion in another direction. So, I mean, take that with a grain of salt. I mean, I am deeply sorry. I'm really sorry about I'm really sorry about all this. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I'm truly sorry. I didn't know what I knew about stuff. I mean, like, I'll give you an example. One of the things I've learned is the issue with hair. Now, I don't have a hair issue because I have straight hair, but for the African American female, hair is a big problem because I remember, in the past with my previous business, I employed people, and we had people that were African-American females that worked with us. And the expectation was that, if they came in with their natural hair, it's not that there was anything wrong with it, but it would definitely raise eyebrows on that. So, right. But I didn't know anything about that. Now that I have the education that I have and the heightened level of awareness, I now realize that, that really sucks. To be honest, right? An African-American female needs to spend, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a year just making her hair fit so that she can conform into a society that they don't have to deal with that problem. Like, that's a big handicap to have to deal with, just to like that just sucks. So, like I said, I'm not in any way condoning what I said, right? If you're speeding and you don't see the sign, you still get a ticket, right? So I deserve a ticket. All I'm saying is, with the understanding and knowledge I have now, I truly feel bad about some of the things I said before. And that's, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, an apology is definitely a great start, and I'm gonna be here every day. And I love facing the music, and not only do I not have a problem facing the music, I want you to turn that shit up and put it in my face, and I'm gonna play my song too, because we're gonna keep going. As far as building Black wealth, I will say this: in the digital underground, we asked the students who signed up for the digital underground, we said, how do you guys feel? Do you want Charles, out of here or what? And they're overwhelmingly supportive in the sense that, they're like, look, we know, and we've watched 40 hours of his video because he's taught us a lot about which cryptocurrencies to pick, and we don't care. They literally were like, we don't give it. In fact, they were actually mad at us for spending so much time on it. It was almost like they were offended that we cared so much. I mean, so if you're a member of the digital underground, say something, rep your flag right quick, let people know that you're in there, let them know what the experience is like. And because at the end of the day, that's who we're thinking about, right? The number one priority in our company is customer service and being very respectful to the people that support us and who are a part of what we do, who are joining the revolution. I want you guys to know that we love you and we really appreciate you. And those of you who thought about joining the Black Business School, don't let anybody tell you any different. You can get started for free. You don't have to spend money to learn how to build wealth. We can get you started for free. We'll teach you more for free than most people will teach you for $10,000. Well, all we ask is that if you get in there and you see something else that you like, that you just give us consideration to be your next educators to help you and your family grow. We want you to sign your whole family up. Don't just come by yourself. Bring your cousin, bring your sister, your mama, your kids, everybody. We're the only university I know of that wants you to actually enroll your children, because that's how we're going to win the game in the next generation. So I guess that's enough. We talked it out.
Hey, Dr. Boyce, can I make one more request?
Yeah, please.
Especially for people in the digital underground, because we will probably continue to interact. I'm sorry for what's happened. And I'm also aware that in general, I can be rough around the edges and obtuse. So my apology is not just for things that I've said. I want to apologize in advance for anything that I may say, because there is a probability that I may offend. And I'm truly, I don't want to. So in addition to apologizing in advance, I'm willing to, put my money where my mouth is. So if there are people in the digital underground who, understand, I don't know, call it sensitivity training or etiquette training or whatever on that front, I am willing to pay, because yes, it's one thing to work with someone because you have to, but there is a basic element of you want to be, it's a good thing to be pleasant around other people because we're all humans. So I just want to say I am willing to educate myself better so that I don't inadvertently offend others moving forward.
Right. And actually, Boyce, we're not going to get too deep into this too, but so Richmond keeps asking about Jarvis and who owns Jarvis, that type of thing. So, on that front, that was a conversation between us and the digital underground. But, Charles made a big concession on that front because of, well, Charles, go ahead and explain what you did in regards to the digital underground when people were talking about the control of Jarvis Co. When we pushed that forward.
Sure. I think we first have to start with some background, right? So Jarvis is call it a technology, a company or whatever, that was developed by myself and Mark Moss. And we have the Black Business School licenses it from us for their program. Based on the success and of everything going on, we have created, call it Jarvis Co. And Jarvis Co. consists of three major partners. I myself am one. Lawrence, you and your brother, Dr. Boyce, are one. And Mark is the other major partner. So there's three major partners. In terms of how governance of Jarvis Co. was initially set up, we had a board of 5. And Dr. Boyce and Lawrence had 2 seats on the board. I had control of 2 seats. I had 1 seat mine and 1 the ability to appoint. And then Mark Moss had the final seat. So if you look at it, you and Dr. Boyce have 2 seats. Outsiders have, non-African American people have 3 seats. So a concession I made, given the realities of cultural sensitivity and our desire to work for the community, is that I have tentatively conceded, barring acceptance from, Dr. V and a few other things that she has to, decide if she actually wants to do this. I have offered her or potentially another African-American person my seat. So anybody who's in business, if you don't understand the magnitude of this, then I don't know what to say.
Yeah, basically, Dr. Venetia Dutra is one of the faculty members in the Black Business School. She teaches a real estate class, and she has a PhD in finance. She's one of the few Black women on the planet that has a PhD in finance. She's been my friend for about 20 years now, since she was a PhD student, and she's just been extraordinary in terms of educating Black people on wealth building and economics and things like that. I will say that I don't even think you guys really had to even go through and explain everything and lay it all out there, because I almost feel like that's a conversation that only certain people are gonna even try to understand, right? But for those who care enough about this sort of thing, in my terms, Jarvis is not ours. Jarvis is the technology that was behind the digital underground. As I told you guys from the beginning, rewind about a year or 9 months ago when I first started investing in crypto and I saw the opportunities in crypto. I said to my team, I said, let's go get some really good experts in this area so that we can dig deeper, so that I can teach, inform everybody on the opportunities that are there. We've seen people build massive amounts of wealth very quickly, through crypto. So Charles and Mark Moss were a couple of people that we connected with, along with Lamar Wilson and other people. And they brought in Jarvis, which basically is a technology where they are able to analyze and break down and figure out which of the crypto coins are not just legitimate, but actually are sort of part of the spawning process of an entire industry. Because what you don't know is that 90% of the coins that are out there are frauds. 90% of them shouldn't even exist. They don't have a functional business model. They're just not good to buy. But a lot of people I saw were on the internet and their friend would say, oh, well, try this coin, try that coin. So I said, we need some guidance in this economic jungle. So long story short, the Jarvis team, what they do, and that's not ours. We don't own that. We license that from them. They are able to do these really awesome reports and tell you, this is why this coin is good. Here's an update on this particular company. Here's some inside information on how this works. and that's where I was able to make all my crypto investments. And then I saw my investments triple and quadruple. And that's where the whole digital underground came from. So if you want to know why the students are so giddy, it's because most of the students in the digital underground have made a ton of money. And so ultimately, Charles and Mark were leading their thing on Jarvis Co. And they invited us to be a partner in this, but that's their thing. It has nothing to do with the Black Business School at this point. It's us sort of saying, okay, well, what do you got going on over there? So we said, yeah, sure, we'd like to invest in that, because again, my goal is to invest money where we can build wealth so that we can educate more of our people, build our buildings, do our thing, make our movies, all of that. And so Charles had two of the board seats. Lawrence and I had one each. Mark had one, Charles had one, and the board is really important, really powerful. That's the governing body of a corporation. So Charles had control of two seats. He gave one to Dr. Venetia Dutra, who was part of the Black Business School. And I was honestly a little bit surprised, like when you offered that up, to be honest with you. I can't debate that being a really noble gesture. It's accepted. I don't know if Dr. Dutra is going to want to do it or not, but maybe someone else will. But I think it's fine. I like what I was hearing.
Yeah, no, I mean, ultimately, I have a saying that I say, judge me by my actions. I can sit here and, cry or say I'm tearfully apologetic or something like that. But if you look at the actions, the reality of the situation is, from a cash contribution side, I'm probably putting the most cash in right now of anybody, and I'm ceding control. I'm literally giving up a board seat. I mean, you can't, I don't know how to argue or say anything against that. I mean, that's huge, for anybody who understands that. And for people who don't understand that, I really can't give you an answer. I mean,
yeah, that is huge. And you're right. I mean, if you were like Bill Clinton or somebody, trying to apologize for something racist that the Democrats said, all you got to do is cry and, be remorseful, go visit a Black church and eat some barbecue chicken. And everybody's like, oh, Lord, we forgive you. But you're putting real money behind it. And that's what makes me respect it. And as I told everybody, I want you to pay attention, guys. I've told you guys about, when you talk about doing business, one of the ways you can separate the talkers from the pretenders is, are they putting skin in the game? So when you go do business and your homeboy says, hey, let's start this company and we can all make a ton of money and we can partner, blah, blah, blah. And you just put up all the money and we can get to work. That doesn't work. Ask them, say, what can you invest? What can you put in this company to make this thing go? And if they're not willing to put anything into it, any skin in the game, then you're basically being played. They're going to end up milking all your resources and you're not going to get anywhere. So find business partners who are serious, who are really willing to put their money where their mouth is. And so, that's just a little tip for everybody who's listening.
Yeah, and Jarvis, we're so excited about that because, me and Boyce have a significant share in Jarvis Co. As we export this to the rest of the world, right? So, I look at my classmates from Cornell and other places who came for money, and what they have done is selling goods to other consumer bases, right? So, like, I look at the Black community. Like Dr. Amos Wilson does in Blueprint for Black Power, as a nation within a nation, right? And we're taking Jarvis. It started, in our community, in our internal little network, which I'm very proud of. But this is an export. Like, we are going to export this, and this is going to give us the capital base to build the 100 Black financial empowerment centers that we want to build over the next 10 years, right? This is going to help us build communities. You know, my personal mission is to build 3 neighborhoods in the next 10 years that are mixed-use neighborhoods that are predominantly Black. So, you know, we have a plan for all of the things that we want to do with, you know, the capital that will come from Jarvis Co. as we are, you know, significant shareholders in something that a lot of people want from a lot of different communities. We have a plan on how we're going to use that to fulfill our dream of Black economic empowerment. You know, we want to build what Marcus Garvey built, you know, 100 years ago, or whatever, right? That's what we want to build, but we want to do it bigger and we want to do it better. So with the team that we've built, you know, Boyce is, you know, he believes this, and I believe it too, right? I'm the strategic mind. We have people who are just operationally pushing this thing forward, but this thing is going to be huge. And I'm so happy that Charles, you know, gave us a board seat. You know, so basically we have control of Jarvis, you know, from a board perspective, and I'm very happy and excited about that, especially what it means for our long-term economic development of the Black community. So I can't stress that enough. So yeah, that's all to say, and I'm done for the day.
Yeah, Lawrence, I'm just going to add, I mean, you have a pendant for understatement. I mean, this Jarvis thing is more than just, oh, we're going to go create wealth. Let's step back and look at it. We have this goal. We are going to create $1 billion of wealth. You know, that's 1,000 families will become millionaires. And anyone can say it, but with what's going on with Jarvis, we actually have a reasonable probability and possibility of actually achieving that. Think of that is, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm getting too excited about it or anything like that, but that is amazing to like actually have a roadmap. And I'm not saying like reasonable chance doesn't mean it's a 95% chance. I'd say it's probably more like a 20 or 30% chance.
Yeah, it's still low, right? But
of that. But
yeah.
If you went to anyone out there and said, how are you going to create $1 billion of wealth? You know, take 1,000 people and make them millionaires. I mean, who's got a good answer for you? I mean, there's nobody out there, and we actually have a roadmap and a reasonable chance of success of actually doing this. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that to me is amazing. I mean, that's like, dude, this is sorry, I'm just getting excited.
I agree. I think it's worth being excited about, and I think that what I want people to kind of understand. I saw somebody saying, well, they're going to just sell more stuff to Black people, and they don't understand. Jarvis, this is not a company where we're saying this is going to just be a company that's operating in the Black space. We're trying to actually import wealth by basically selling it to everybody. You know, and we're exporting this product to the world the same way hip hop was exported all around the globe. The only difference was hip hop was exported and Black people didn't get that wealth. We're exporting something where the wealth, the ultimate goal, the ultimate driver in all of this is going to be economic development in the Black community, at least for our portion of the company. Now, what other people do with their portion is up to them. But what we're going to do with our portion is we're going to build 100 Black economic empowerment centers around the globe that are going to sort of do a triple function as movie theaters where we can release our own Black movies. They're going to be educational centers where you can educate your children, your entire family. And they're going to be event centers where we're going to have speakers come in every week like Dr. Claude Anderson and others to talk about Black economic empowerment or whatever it is that they're talking about. And so, you know, the thing is, these things require capital. And what's really true is that, you know, while you got a lot of people out here that can talk all day about, you know, racism and it's hard to be Black and the struggle is real, very few of those people actually have a real solution to establish a meaningful, relevant capital base that allows you to make serious, significant moves where you can look at a block and say, okay, let's go buy that block. You know, I'm interested in making money moves. I'm not interested in yapping. You know, I do a lot of talking only if the talking leads to action. Today, I'm meeting with Jay Morrison, who's starting the Tulsa Fund, and I'm going to support that because we're going to figure out a way to raise $50 million so we can make real moves. You know, and I think that that can't be lost, you know, as people, you know, sort of try to analyze and scrutinize, you know, like what's going on and who we work with. If you want to know my policy in terms of whether it's contractors or students in the Black Business School, our policy is very basic. We don't discriminate. You can't legally say, I will not hire you because you're not black. You can't say, I will not accept you because you're not black. That's not legal. Y'all would get mad if Harvard University said, we're not letting in black people. But these universities, they do it, they just don't announce it, right? Now, what I have said is, you can come in here if you want to. No matter what your background is, you can come in as a student, contractor, whatever, as long as you're bringing skills, and as long as you understand that our number one goal is to strengthen the black community. So when it comes to elevating the black community, I'm fine with having all hands on deck. When it comes to elevating the black community, I'm okay with people coming in as long as they understand you're in our house. This is our house, right? If you're in the Black Business School, that's our house. It'll never change. It'll never be somebody else's house. But at the same time, sometimes, like with the Jarvis deal, we're going to go into your house a little bit. That's really your thing. Jarvis was your company, your idea, your concept. And that's what people have to understand, is that you can't build wealth for black people when you only do business with black people. Like it ain't going to work. You can't, because we have wealth here, but there's more wealth out there. And so make those connections, everybody. Like, learn how to communicate with different kinds of people. Just know where your power base is. Like, always have a power base. That's why integration didn't work, because you integrated into someone else's house, but you didn't have a house of your own. We're going to integrate with in other people's houses, but we got our house, and we ain't selling that shit ever. So I'm done talking.
I'm done. Yeah, I'm done too. But we're about to get these exports done, y'all. So I am playing straight from Blueprint from Black Power, Powernomics, all of those different types of books, and we're ready to get it cracking and get this wealth for the entire community. So on that note, let's go ahead and end, Boyce.
All right. Well, we got a couple of housekeeping issues. Everybody that comes into the podcast, y'all know that every day, people are already asking about it. Every day I give away $50 worth of Bitcoin. So go ahead. If you have a Coinbase account, write in your Coinbase email address, and I will pick somebody today, and I'll give you $50 worth of Bitcoin. The other thing is, I want to re-congratulate Marcus Klein, who runs the Freedom Home Academy International. Marcus Klein is the first recipient of the Felicia T. Couch Academic Achievement Award. We've been talking about this for about 4 weeks. About a month and a half ago, I said, you know what, I want to put my money where my mouth is. So we're going to give $5,000 to an African-centered school. And we had the schools send their information in. They all got in the database, which is at teachourownchildren.com. That's teachourownchildren.com. And we picked a school that we liked, and we love Freedom Home Academy International, because they showed me a video where they had little 8-year-old black boys doing calculus. Now I can name a lot of 8-year-old black boys who can throw footballs, who can dribble basketballs, who can do the Dougie and do the WAP and all that. But I don't know too many 8-year-old black boys who can do calculus like college students. So when I saw that, I said to myself, this guy Marcus Klein, who's running the Freedom Home Academy, this brother is a genius. His model needs to be studied. It needs to be replicated. We need to have school systems all across the country, because you need to stop complaining about the public schools in your neighborhood and how they suck, and understand that you can build a system of your own. So with all these African-centered schools that are out here that are already educating our kids, all we got to do is bring them together under an umbrella, connect them in certain ways, and Cheryl Irvin's going to help us do that. And then you got to go consider enrolling your child. Give that African-centered school a shot the same way you gave that other school a shot. Like, just look it over, see if you like the curriculum. If you like one of these schools, then sign your child up, because the more kids we get in these schools, the better these schools will do. And we're gonna push you into that battle, but we're going to be on the front lines, and we're going to write that first check. So congratulations to Freedom Home Academy International. We will be giving you a $5,000 check. Well, and also Marcus Klein, my manager spoke to him, and I was invited. According to my manager, I was invited to be their commencement speaker for this year, and it is an honor. I accept. I haven't checked my calendar yet, but if I'm free on June 9th, I will be there, and maybe that'll be a great day for us to give that money. And believe me, this is just the beginning. And the other thing too is, this is something really cool that we did the other day, is when we gave the money, we did a cash mob on Freedom Home Academy's website on their donate button. I told everybody, go to FHAINTL.org, FHAINTL.org, hit the donate button, and please follow suit. I wrote that check. Write a little check. You ain't got to write a big check, just a little check, because we got to support each other. And these schools are really doing the important work, and we got to use the resources we have. We can build our own school system. We ain't got to wait for Superman, because we the best, straight up, point blank, period. All right, so let me go ahead and grab somebody who won the crypto giveaway for today. Hey, Brian, good to see you, Brian. Smartest 24-year-old on the planet. You know we love you, girl. You the best. I'm sounding like DJ Khaled. I need to. I see. That's what happens when you watch too much damn TV. You start sounding like these rappers. All right, let me see. Who? I'm grabbing your. Apparently, Sharon Scott really wants to win. She put her email address in here a bunch of times. All right, Sharon, you win. Sharko7042@gmail.com. All right. So Sharon, everybody give a digital congratulations to Sharon Scott. Sharon Scott's the winner for today. Just so you know, if I see that Charco email address though next time, you ain't winning next time, girl. I'm gonna give it to somebody else. But you know, she tried. She gets an A for effort. God bless you, sister. So I'm gonna send you that Bitcoin right now. Thank you for hanging out, Charles. I appreciate it. Looks like Charles already stepped out. So thank you guys for hanging out with us in this very interesting conversation. It was serious. It was intense. It was a little nervous. Like, oh man, here we're gonna talk about some uncomfortable stuff. But I told my brother, I said, we're gonna have this one conversation, then we're gonna just move on. And people, and again, I never have believed in telling you guys what to think. That's not my job. My job is to encourage you to think for yourself. So feel free to take whatever you heard, whatever you've seen, and go listen to other points of view if you want to, and then make a decision that's going to work for you and your family. Don't get caught up when you see people on YouTube. All we are, pretty much, other than what we do in business or whatever, we're pretty much all just these characters who are yapping on YouTube. That's it. That's all it is, right? So before you pick a side based on which YouTube character you like the most, think about the character that should matter the most to you. The team that should matter the most to you should be your own damn family. What's going to work best for your family? Which strategy is going to help you as an individual, as a family unit, overcome racism? What's going to help you get to where you want to get to? I don't know all the answers. I really don't. But I got a plan, and I think the plan can work. I have a PhD. It's real. I taught college students for 25 years. I've taught white kids how to get wealthy. Now I want to teach black people too. That's as basic as it gets. I'm not fighting to be the King Kong consciousness or the leader of the African American community. I'm not running for office. This is not a popularity contest. This is just me trying to do what I can to be helpful to you. And not only will I be helpful in terms of providing knowledge, but we can provide some money too. And that's as simple as it gets. That's all we really are. We're just out here doing our best. So if you want to know why this stuff doesn't bother me too much, I enjoy it because it's fun. I enjoy these little debates. But at the end of the day, my ego's not tied up into any of this, and I don't think yours should be either. Just do what's best for your family. Build something real, and then the world will respect you. Even if they don't like you, they will respect you. So join me again. Please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. I am gone. Have a good day. Be good. Peace.